the outside, Madam Rouge, Tie Zone, Nick and Nova, Vega one later as well. Tie Zone, I reckon Tie Zone, the Tolga Tornado has got up and won the strap rack in photos. Nick and Nova, Madam Rouge and Vega one all up there as well, followed by Rainier, Outback Barbie, then Winter Bride, followed by Victoria. Back behind those we had Graph Exhilarate, Hightail, followed by Chief Ironside, Dawn Passage, Trekking, Crack Me Up, and also Deep Image Bands on Fire, and commentary about the last one.
Hello everybody, welcome to this very special edition of The Chats. We are firmly entrenched into the Brisbane Racing Club Carnival, which is up the road here at Doomben Racecourse from my place here in Ascot. We've got 5 big race days ahead, and the man who is up in the grandstands to call all the action is the voice of Tab Radio and Sky Racing, Sky Thoroughbreds, Mr. Josh Fleming. Welcome to the chat.
Yeah, thanks, Matt Ben. Great to be with you, boys. And we had a great couple of days there at Wheatwood Day up there with Anthony Collins, and of course the Pink Ribbon Day was a massive success down there for the Gold Coast Turf Club. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It was the first time we've run that as a metro meeting, and great to see plenty of pink down there. Thank you very much to the club as well. They got the pink suit there for me, and I thought pink was quite becoming of me. Actually, I don't think I was scrubbed up too bad, and that bit of feedback was quite positive. But it was great to get into the spirit of the day there. But can't wait for the weekend. Alligator Bloods arrived down there to safe and sound for the Silver Eagle at Randwick. So looking forward to seeing him there second up this weekend. But Queensland Cup Day at Doomben this weekend, bit different, being run at Doomben over 2200. It's normally over 2 miles at Eagle Farm, as we know. It's even been run at the Sunny Coast before. But we've got some exciting times ahead.
Your story is one that fascinates me. You're born in a remote town in central Queensland of Barcaldine, a population of 1,400, I read today.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even know where Barcaldine was, mate, until I did a little bit of research on that last night. But just tell us about life in Barcaldine growing up to obviously coming to the big smoke of Brisbane.
It was obviously a massive step to go from that country upbringing to come to Brisbane, and then went to Sydney after that. So it was actually good that I sort of went to Brisbane first and then down the south of it. I'd gone direct from Barcaldine to the Sydney. You're going from 1,400 to about 5 million, so it would have been an even bigger culture shock than what it already was. But I was very fortunate to have the upbringing out there and cut my teeth on those country tracks. And it was sort of only really by chance that I was found out there by the local steward at the time in Western Queensland, John Wallace. He sadly passed away about 5 or 6 years ago, but I would never have got to where I've got to my career without him and others who have helped along the way. Obviously, Alan Thomas, a wonderful mentor, but it was John in those early days. And it was only by chance he heard a phantom call that I did up in Mum's classroom at the school. Mum was a teacher there in Barcaldine. She's in Blackall these days. And it was a Sunday that she was up at the school, and I was there doing a phantom call out of the Sunday paper. They put the positions in running at the 800, 400 and finish, and I constructed that into a bit of a phantom call, and he heard it, and it took me under his wing from that point on. So not sure if it was fate or not, boys, but why he was up there on a Sunday and we just happened to be there on a non-school day as well, I'm not too sure. Maybe it was one of those meant to be things, but I was very lucky to have met him, and he was wonderful. He took me around to the Western Tracks from that point on, and until I got my first break out there in Longreach. It was the first meeting I did when I was 14 years of age.
And Josh, you say Alan Thomas was your mentor. What sort of an influence has he had on your career? And I believe he's working in real estate at the Gold Coast these days.
Oh, look, he taught me so much about just life in general. Obviously, race calling, but he was just look. You couldn't ask for a better mentor for so many different reasons. Probably the best one was he just wouldn't be afraid to tell you that you're stuffed up, and even if you mucked up that, done a good job if you didn't. But he would also give you praise where it was sort of deserved, but also criticism where it was deserved as well. If you made a blue, he wouldn't be afraid to tell you, but he'd also take the best approach to tell you what you've done wrong and point me in the right direction. Look, to come up here and take over from him after the upbringing that I had, firstly in Western Queensland, then getting under his wing here in Brisbane. Look, it's just meant so much, where he could have sort of gone down another path had he chosen to, I suppose, but I was the one that he wanted to take over. So I can never, repay those men for what they did for me. And there's been so many people there, obviously mum and that were fantastic in pushing me. But, you know, to get that support from those men was just something I can never repay them for.
Just tell us about, obviously, the love affair that you both had for racing and obviously being able to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah, look, he was my original inspiration to be a caller. Obviously, I got more under AT's wing as I got a bit older. But when I grew up as a kid in Western Queensland, we didn't have Sky Channel at the time. So obviously it was Wayne's voice calling on 4Tab at the time. So he was my inspiration when I was very young to be a caller. I was lucky enough to meet him when I was only very young as well, and got some good photos there. In the albums from when I met him when I was only about 11 or 12 years of age. So, yeah, look, he was a great influence early on. And obviously you go from that, and I was probably a lot like him when I was calling, and then you pick up styles from other blokes as you go along. And you obviously want your own style as well. You always have that little bit of other callers as you go along. It's hard not to when you grow up and you listen to both Wayne and AT. And then as I got a bit older, I idolised Greg Miles as well, who called 35 Melbourne Cup. So you probably have that little bit of all of them in you, plus your own sort of style as you go along. It's very important to have your own way. You don't want to be, you know, just a copycat of someone. But yeah, look, I, you know, just been so lucky to have, you know, wanted to do something when I was a kid and get to do it. And you know, you look up to those men when you're a kid, and now to be up there and actually doing the job that they were doing, I feel very very lucky to be able to do it. And you know, the old spare box is still there that I used to call that the old ABC box there at Eagle Farm between Wayne would call on the left and AT would be on the right. So you know, to sort of be up there, you know, from where I was as a kid practicing to doing it now, yeah, just feel very lucky that I've been able to do it.
And you've got a pretty strong country upbringing, Josh. I believe you have called the Birdsville Cup a couple of times. I'm from Melbourne, obviously, but one of my dreams is to go to Birdsville. What's it like just being there, even if you're not calling? But also as a caller, what's it like there? Because I want dust to be sweeping up and stuff, and it'd be pretty hot, and it would probably be hard sometimes to see the field go around the track there.
Yeah, things have got a bit better calling out there. They knocked down the old broadcast tower about 5 or 6 years ago, and we from a different, it's on the same angle, but it's a different tower that they built there, and it was a definite upgrade from what we had before that. But yeah, look, you speak about dust and heat and whatnot. It's not too hot. Luckily, it's in September. I think the hottest day we had there was about 34, 35. Obviously, over the summer, we'll get a lot hotter than that. But yeah, look, the second or third year I called there was a dust storm. Got in my nose, had a nosebleed as they were about to jump in a race. And yeah, it didn't. And that was when we were a little bit more exposed to the crowds. Everyone could see. And there I am as a kid trying to call, and there's blood coming out. It's leaning on the microphone. It's leaning on the race book. So yeah, that was, you know, I felt, you know, I mean, as a kid, it was a great experience to look back on now and laugh. But yeah, at the time, I'd a bit embarrassed, I suppose. But that's sort of what you deal with a bit in Birdsville with the weather. You're always at the you've got the elements to deal with there. Look, I remember the second year I called there, we had probably one of the worst dust storms of all time. How we got through that meeting on the Friday, I don't know, but 24 hours later, we dawned a beautiful outback day for Cup Day, and it just went from one extreme to the other. So that's what you got out there. You're on the edge of the Simpson Desert, and very much a land of extremes with obviously heat over the summer. It can get very cold there as well. Obviously dusty and windy, and we've had years out there where it's rained as well. We nearly had a washout a few years ago. We had all the races bar 2 run on a Sunday for the first time back in 2016. 2010 it was washed out. The cup was washed out entirely. So we've had a bit go on with the weather there in recent years. But yeah, look, it's a meeting like no other. Obviously the isolation factor appeals to a lot of people to drive out there, and a lot of four-wheel drive enthusiasts challenge themselves to get out there. Wonderful carnival atmosphere. I've just, you know, been so lucky to have an association out there and build so many wonderful friendships over the years. And obviously with COVID, we missed our trip out there in 2020, but yeah, there's a lot of things that people missed out on this year that are more important than that. So that's life. Yeah, we didn't make it this year, but yeah, we'll be back in 2021 and can't wait.
I think we might have to get out there, Cubs. Definitely on the bucket list for me to do Birdsville Cup. So, and here's a great man yourself, Josh, up in the callers box. Just want to take you back about 7 years ago, mate. 2013, second recipient of the John Tapp Medal. You mentioned Greg Miles, who called a million Melbourne Cups. And Matt Hill is one of my favourite callers. I just think he's a fantastic caller like yourself. And we're pretty blessed in this industry that we've got yourself, Matty Hill down in Melbourne, Darren Flynn down in Sydney. Matty Hill grew up idolising Greg Miles, but John Tapp is a legend of horse racing calling, and to be awarded the second recipient of the John Tapp Scholarship, how did that sort of push your career to where you're at?
Yeah, well, I would never have got to the start of the Sky without the scholarship that they did. They did it for the first year in 2000, and I did make it to the final 5. Then I was only 15 years of age, and apparently I think we had 87 applicants for it. So was doing pretty well to get to the final 5. Obviously, at the age of 15, it was a pretty big ask to go from Barcaldine to the Sydney. So I was a little bit too young for it, but I was always in there sights after that. And obviously, Matty was the first recipient, as you outlined, and then I followed him. We've had young blokes come through, Mitch Manners and Luke Marlowe after that. So Sky have done a wonderful job from that time on, going ahead and looking after the future of callers. Obviously, we've had Ian Craig, Tappy himself, Paul Ambrosoli, Kevin Thompson, obviously AT. Greg Miles has been a lot in that era that are no longer calling, and there's been a massive changing in the guard from when I was a kid to now. Like it feels like in a heartbeat, I've gone from being the kid idolising these blokes to the next minute I'm up there being one of them. And, like Matty sets the bar very, very high. He's probably the most talented man I've ever met. Just so proud of him, what he's done. And we know that we nearly lost him at the Beijing Olympics when he got gravely ill over there, and that gave us a heck of a fright because we thought we'd lost him. And to bounce back from that, he was obviously the number 1 caller in Sydney for Sky Sports Radio, did the Slippers and Sydney Cups and whatnot, and now doing the Melbourne Cup. So he set the bar high, the first recipient of it. But they showed great faith in us, to come through the ranks from being a kid to then being given the job up here to take over from AT. So look, that opportunity, and I've been with them ever since. So I would never have got to do something I love so much without what they did for me.
And Matt Hill has turned his hand to a number of other sports. In particular, he's called a fair bit of Aussie rules, for example, Josh. I don't know, AT called some rugby league back in the day for 9 in Brisbane. Have you looked at calling other sports, or did you try calling other sports when you were younger?
Yeah, I called a rugby league grand final when I was quite young, the Central West Rugby League between the mighty Barcaldine and Sangoanas and the Ilfracombe Scorpions it was. And that was really the only time I dabbled in it. I haven't taken that sort of any further as I've been full-time in racing. I've continued race calling, haven't had opportunities to go into other sports so far. Look, obviously, I've always loved footy from when I was a kid, and cricket as well. Played cricket, never played football, but was pretty handy at cricket when I was very young. But that was the only dabble I had in calling rugby league, and I loved it. And it was sort of easy to do for the local players because we knew them all. When we get the teams come down from Ilfracombe, Longreach or Winton or something, that was a bit harder because we didn't know them. But look, they're just marvelously talented men like Matty. He called different sports at the Olympics. He's called obviously legs of the Aintree Grand National, and AT has done boxing and other sports as well. So immensely talented men that can go from horse racing, and they could call all 3 codes of racing, which in itself is not easy either. But go to other sports and be successful at it. So look, the opportunity hasn't arose for me. I've just sort of kept along with horse racing, love what I've done up here, and I did do the other codes in Sydney and did enjoy that as well. But look, you never to say never. I know my wife very keen for me to go to the Olympics one day, whether it sort of comes about or not. I suppose only time will tell, but it'd be a once in a lifetime opportunity if it ever came around.
James, is there anything that you'd love to call, like an NRL grand final or an AFL grand final or something, a big sporting event on the globe?
Yeah, I suppose out of the two, like I'm being a Queensland and more rugby league than AFL. I don't dislike AFL. I suppose I just sort of didn't really follow it as a kid up here. It was obviously also rugby league in Queensland back then. I suppose I haven't sort of really thought about doing it at that level. I guess if I was going to go down the sporting path, you have to sort of start, probably a little bit below that level and work your way up. Whether those opportunities ever arise, I'm not too sure. But look, I've only called one race in America with Michael Rayner at Golden Gate Fields over there in California a few years ago, and it was a great highlight, obviously, in racing. But look, if something like that came up again, it'd be great. And look, I mean, we've only got one sort of go at this life caper, so if those opportunities come up, you'd be mad to say no.
And how about the pressure of a race, Josh? How do you cope with that? More specifically, the added pressure of, say, calling in Group 1 like the Stradbroke Handicap, for example?
Yeah, I think I was lucky when I first kicked off up here at the end of 2015 that I only started full time about 2 weeks before Magic Millions Day in 2016. So it was sort of, no time to be sort of too worried about it. It was just get in and do it. And yeah, look, I was a bit nervous that first one, but I was actually sort of proud of myself that I handled it pretty well. When I was sort of thinking about the job up here and I was going to do things that I hadn't done down in the south, obviously you get a bit of anxiety, a bit of nerves about it. To think, well, look, I've been told by someone like AT that yes, I'm up to this grade. Now I've got to go there and prove him right. So I didn't want to go there and obviously get anything wrong and make him look foolish, I suppose, because he put so much faith and trust in me. But I was lucky that I had a stint doing a few Group 1s in Sydney between Matty finishing and Darren starting back in 2015 for about 3 months. I did the Metros down there. So I was able to call my first Group 1 at Warwick Farm, the Chipping Norton, and did a couple of others at Randwick, the Randwick Guineas, and did the Queen of the Turf at Rose Hill. So I was lucky that I sort of did that before I come up here, and I proved to myself, and I think to a lot of people that I was up to that grade. Until you've actually done it, you haven't done it. You can think that you can do it, but you've got to go there and do it. Obviously, those days your nerves are up that little bit more because there's more turnover, there's more people watching, and that's sort of our grand final. There are our moments into the sun, Millions Day in January, and then our Group 1 days obviously over winter. So yeah, look, whichever race you call's got turnover and people watching, and you always want to do your job to the best of your ability. But no doubt those days are the ones you want to step up to the market, and I think you sort of work hard, but you try and go there and enjoy it as much as you can. You know that you've prepared as well as you can, so you go there and do your job. But yeah, I think like anything else, the more you do it, the more relaxed and the more sort of comfortable you are in yourself as you approach it.
2016 Stradbroke, my friends. Boyhood dream to call the Stradbroke Handicap, and that dream did come through in 2016. Do you remember the build-up going into the track?
Yeah.
With a big crowd, do you get that sense of enormity, and do you feed off that? You get 20 or 30,000 people at races here in Brisbane. Do you get that enormity and that sense of the roar of the crowd as they ran the home straight?
Oh, 100%. Well, it was sort of unique, Stradbroke Day, and as far as we actually had 4 Group 1s on the day. It was the first time in Queensland that we'd ever had 4. We had the Queensland Oaks the week before washed out. So they put the Oaks on Derby Day, and we had obviously the Derby, the Stradbroke, and the Atkins as well. So we had 4 Group 1s, and it was a 10-race card. So it was the biggest meeting I've ever done. So it was a bit similar to Millions Owned as far as I hadn't been in the job for that long, but we're sort of straight into the deep end. And I knew that I'd been there and done it on Millions Day, so I was confident that I could go there and do my job. It's looking back like I've watched, Stradbrokes, and I actually, just to nearly try and recite the finish of the Stradbroke as a kid. I'd hear Wayne call the AT, and then to actually sort of next minute I'm up there doing it, it was just, you just can't put a price tag on it. It was a dream come true, and it was all a bit of a blur, I suppose. Like, it goes quickly. You feel like the day goes slow in a sense when you build up to those sort of races, but the next minute they're in the yard, they parade, you see the colours, and you just go there sort of very keen just to get into it. You can sort of relate to how footy players feel for their grand final at night. You've got all day to sort of, sit there and think about things. You just want to get there and do it. You wish it was on at 5 a.m, so you could just rip into it, to be quite truthful. But I'm just very fortunate that I got the opportunity to do it. I mean, there's only two men that have called, the only day in Queensland that had 4 Group 1s. I was one of them. So feel very privileged and lucky to have done it.
And obviously, before you call a race, preparation is very important. What kind of things do you do to remember the saddlecloth numbers and the colours? Is it a quick look before they go out on the track while they're parading, or do you do it like a couple of days before? You'll sit at your desk there at home and do some research as well, Josh?
Yeah, we do a bit of prep, Benny, the night before. Normally, we're lucky in this day and age with so much information online. You can print off Racing Australia or the Winning Post website or TAB website. So, look, all the colours are there. Most of them, by and large, we've seen anyway. But if we get 2-year-olds come through or new horses, it's good to have, what we call the cheat sheet. You've got the list of colours there if you do need to to go to it for any res, and you can never sort of predict when you might forget one in the run, or just something like a trainer might have 2 horses in it and one's got a blue cap or white cap, so you've got your notes there to remind you which one's got that cap. I think most callers would agree you can't really learn them the night before. You can print your colours off, you can go through and do your selections and sort of go through what you do and don't know in your mind, read colours, you go through a field and think, okay, I know most of them, and identify which ones you're going to have to work that bit harder for. But you can't sort of properly learn them until you see them in the mounting yard, and you look, something might go out in club's colours at the last minute that trainer might have left the colours at home, or just say there could be 3 stablemates in it and they've got blue cap, white cap, red cap. Les Ross has got 4 on the 2-year-old race of the Saturday. So you can't learn them because you don't know who's in a white cap, you don't know who's in the red cap, black cap, etc. So the bulk of it, you pretty much can only do that 10 minutes leading into the race, which means it's the freshest in your mind. If you try to learn it the night before, well, you just forget it by then because you're too far out from the event. You've got to keep it as fresh in your mind as you possibly can, and then get those out of your head and get the next ones in for the next race about 35 minutes later. But as I say, we're just lucky that we've got a lot of really good websites, racing sites online these days where a lot of information's there and colours and speed maps and whatnot. We can do our research pretty thoroughly.
Yeah, it's tough for punters to obviously work all that out, mate, but I'll take my hat off to you guys. The 2 guys who obviously made a sensation on Facebook calling Chautauqua's Manikato Stakes with Greg Miles, you've got to take your hats off to those guys. I'd love to do it, mate. I've never actually sat down and called a race, so I do admire you guys. Life away from the track, let's go away from it. We're mates on Facebook. You're like me, mate. You've got a young'un who keeps you busy, like myself. What does Josh Fleming do away from the track to relax and just switch off from racing?
Yeah, well, you sort of hit the nail on the head straight away, Matt. He loves spending time with my beautiful little daughter, and and obviously my wife, she's a superstar. Without her, I wouldn't even have this camera working today. So she's the brain operation here. Look, I tend to do about 4 meetings a week on average in your preparation and travel and whatnot. So they can be busy weeks. Obviously, I'm not the only busy one. A lot of people out there would work more than that. So, when you get those days off and spend a bit of time at home, we make the most of it. Normally, my weekend will be Monday and Tuesday. And look, we've even spent some time today just sitting on the lounge doing nothing, watching Peter Rabbit. That's my daughter's favourite show. She's just over 2 years of age and she's in love with Peter Rabbit. It's good to sort of switch off and just kick back and watch those shows with her. And that's the thing I love doing the most. And look, you can find yourself busy on days off as well. And she'll have swimming lessons or go to gymnastics or something like that. Or she sometimes just wants to go for a walk up the little street there and see the kids that live next door and bounce on the trampoline and just sit down and watch them and enjoy themselves, like we've only got one opportunity, to watch them grow up, and you got to make the most of it. And before you know it, they'll be 15, 18 and ordering us around, and they'll have boys chase them soon enough. So I want to try and enjoy childhood with them as much as we can and have fun. But there's no doubt that, when she was born a couple of years ago, it changed my life completely. It changed my outlook on life. And I'm just so lucky to have her in my life. And I'll probably use the word lucky a fair bit, but I certainly count myself a lucky man to have her.
Just a bit of a lot harder one though, Josh. You're talking about Peter Rabbit, and Matt loves it too. Obviously, as a race caller, you can do different voices and stuff like that. Do you ever do Peter Rabbit for your daughter, or can you see yourself maybe that could be another career as well? On weekends, you could do children's parties and do kids' voices or cartoon voices.
I haven't attempted to do that. I don't know if I'll be much good at the impersonations or not, but I really should be able to do it for the fact I've heard the voice so many times. I could probably recite word for word every show, and some of if it's not doing that, we might be able to sing a few songs. Moana is another movie that she loves, and the You're Welcome song that they sing, we can stand up and nearly recite that word for word. So but look, and we get up and dance around and sing the songs and that. It's great fun. And but I tell you, one bloke who can impersonate is Greg Radley from Sky Thoroughbred Central. He is
really?
He's one of the best. If you ever get a chance to chat to him, he's a freak. He actually takes other people off better than what they do themselves, I think. So
wow.
He's an absolute freak at it. But something I haven't tried, but I've probably heard it that many times. I could probably have a go, and yeah, might be pretty convincing. We could probably read the script word for word from just about every episode we're seeing, I reckon.
Busy period for you. Obviously, Sunshine Coast Surf Club has got Friday night racing up, and we're talking before 4 meetings a week. So Friday night into Saturday, and then back up the coast on Sunday. A super busy time ahead, mate. So we wish you all the best. Before we let you go, though, Benny and I just basically have a few. We call it the Fast Five, but I've got another question which I'll throw in there. So I'll let Benny kick it off.
Right.
Josh, what's your earliest memory of racing growing up in country Queensland?
The first meeting I ever went to was in Longreach out there when I was about 11 or 12 years of age, and it was a real eye-opener because I'd only seen races in Brisbane on the lush turf tracks there. And I remember the very first race I watched down on the front lawn there. I looked up and the race caller was calling without binoculars, which was a first shock. And then the horse that won the race ran to the outside fence and threw the rider. Thankfully, the rider was uninjured, but that was my introduction to Western racing. A caller with no binoculars, and the bloke who won come a cropper past the line. So it was a bit of an eye-opener the first day.
You've been calling now for 17, 18 years. You've obviously called thousands and thousands of horses. Is there one that stands out that's a favourite horse of Josh Fleming's, or is there just appreciate the animal for what they are?
Look, I'm lucky to say I called Winks at a further start at Warwick Farm. It was just in that period after Matty had finished there and before Darren had kicked off. So Mark Sheen, who was calling for TVN at the time, and I was calling for Sky Sports Radio. And there was this filly who was debuting at Warwick Farm. She was a $6 chance, I think, and a 2-year-old filly's no metro win race. And she came out and won, and she looked impressive when she won that day. And we didn't know that we'd seen one of the greatest of all time, obviously, at that point. But I'm proud to say that I called her at a further start, and we obviously know what she's gone on to do from that point on. I called Lonro in a barrier trial when I was a kid, sort of earning my stripes in Sydney a bit, and so I was lucky to call him in a trial at Randwick. And I suppose more recently buffering one of his last, or towards the end of his career anyway, in Australia before he went to Dubai. He won here on the Gold Coast, the first Magic Millions day that I called. It was actually the first $1 million race I ever called, was the cutest race there that he won. So they're probably three that spring to mind. Obviously, as a Queenslander, very fortunate to have called buffering on a day like that, the first $1 million race I called. Lonro on a trial and called Winks at a further start. So been quite fortunate there.
Favourite track to call from? Matt's told me that the callers boxes at Eagle Farm and Doomben are pretty impressive.
Yeah, look, all the tracks here in the southeast are wonderful to call out. I've got a soft spot for Sunshine Coast for the fact that it's become my home track. We don't live far from Corbale Park here, and look, I enjoy sort of calling all the tracks here. I'd have to nominate Corbale Park as my favourite, though. As I say, it's become our home track here since we relocated to the sunny coast about nearly 5 years ago. So out of those tracks, I've got to nominate Corbale Park. Look, out of all the tracks I've called, obviously Birdsall's one that's always going to be very near and dear to me. To have kicked off out there when I was 14 years of age, missed a few years for various reasons, but hopefully all going well. We'll be there for Cup number 18 the next year. So it's only 2 days a year there, but obviously it's the track that's nearest and dearest to me out there. But of the tracks I regularly call out down here, I'd say the Sunny Coast.
Flem, favourite race to call? Obviously, you've called some big Group 1s here in Queensland and down in New South Wales. But is there a favourite race that you like to call or watch? Maybe a race that you don't call, like a Melbourne Cup or a Cox Plate?
Yeah, look, I mean, you can't really compare the Melbourne Cup, to or anything else to a Melbourne Cup. It's one of those sort of events that, when you're a kid, you always remember where you were and where you were watching and who won. And, I think I got a better memory of who was winning the Cups, back when I was a kid, sort of, the late 90s, then obviously rolling into the Mackay Diva era. Look, I watched her win her third Cup in Muswellbrook. I was in the broadcast box at Muswellbrook and had a tear in my eye that day. I'm sure a lot of people did, watching her win a third straight Cup. But look, obviously in more recent times, the Everest has been massive in Sydney, as we know. It's the growth of that race has been incredible the last few years since we've had it. So that's definitely a race that we look forward to without a doubt, with that massive prize money. And but yeah, look, as a kid growing up, it was just always the Melbourne Cup, and Cox Plates are great. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, as a Queensland, always watched the Stradbroke, and now fortunate enough to call it. But I don't think you can rival a Melbourne Cup. The way that the country gets behind it, the massive turnover, and people having sweeps, and there's Calcutta's and that the night before. So the Everest is massive. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think you can. I didn't go past the Melbourne Cup. It sort of stands out for mine.
I'm not sure if it's going to happen much anymore, but there used to be like Wayne Wilson would call for 7, and then you'd have other callers as well. Would you ever view yourself maybe one day, Melbourne Cup Day being in Melbourne, but say calling it for Channel 10 if they had a TV caller rather than taking Matt Hill's feed, for example?
Oh, look, if the opportunity ever came up, you'd be mad to turn it down. We never will, to be fair, because I suppose the environment that we're in, they take Matty's call, and he does such a full job. And but obviously you're right. We've had Dan Malecki do it for Channel 10 before, and Wayne was there for Channel 7 that year. And Brian Martin called a stack of Melbourne Cups, of course, on 9 to 7 or 3 to Z, and you go back to the legends like your Joe Browns and Bert Bryants and Bill Collins, and the legends going back before then as well, Frank O'Brien. So look, the chances are pretty slim of it ever happening. But look, if hypothetically someone said we want you to do it, well, I mean, you'd be beyond mad to say no. Obviously, it'd be hard working. You'd be beyond nervous to go and do something like that. But it's an opportunity that doesn't come to too many people at all. So if it ever come about, you'd have to take it and go there and have a crack.
Have you got a most memorable moment in racing, Flem, either calling or watching? We know we just spoke about, obviously, 2005 Melbourne Cup where Makybe Diva won her third.
I would probably put my owner's hat on, and obviously there's plenty of Birdsville bias with me, but I was able to call my own horse winning out there a few years ago, and that was a massive thrill. It was something that I never thought would happen. We were able to win a race out there. It was only a benchmark 55 over 800, but it felt like an Everest or a Melbourne Cup to me to have him out there, and he won, and to call the race as well. And he was able to carry 67 or something out in his back out of the stack of weight, won an old horse called Payback. So he's retired now, and I've got another horse in the Cloncurry Cup tomorrow, actually, that I think will be hard to beat, a horse called Eshiel. So we wanted to try and win a Birdsville Cup with him this year, and for obvious reasons it didn't pan out. But I'd say, to try and nominate one off the top of my head, that would be it. That was a day I'll never forget. And hopefully we can replicate that next year. If it can be in a couple, fantastic. But just to be there and win a race at a track that meant so much to me, and to call it as well was massive.
You've touched on your love of NRL footy, mate. We're coming down to the business end of the season. Who wins the premiership and why?
Look, I'll go with Penrith. They've just, I was really impressed with them last week when they played the Roosters. I thought there'd be a bounce back factor with the Roosters after they were towed up the week before, that they could bounce back and beat Penrith. And they go from cheek. Of course, they led 10-0 early, but look, they really responded there, the Panthers, and they just continue to leap every hurdle that is put before them. And I suppose the Queensland, there's some Sydney teams that we love to hate, but Penrith is not one of them. It's always a team we've had some bit of a soft spot for, and they've had such a wonderful year, and they've been the best team all year. So I think they'll do it. Obviously, Melbourne will be hard to beat. The Roosters, they've got to bounce back now, and they had history against them, the fact that they're looking for their third straight premiership. I think South's the dark horse. Of course, they towed the Roosters up only a few weeks ago. So I wouldn't say they're morals, but last 50 are going Penrith.
Never use the M-word, my friend.
No, not at all.
Josh, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure in having you as our first guest on the chat for this series. We wish you all the best for the Spring Carnival, mate. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll catch up with you at the races very soon. Yeah,
look forward to it, Matty. Thank you. Thanks, Benny.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be involved, boys, and chat to you again soon.
We're hoping to try and get Benny up for the Magic Millions, mate. So if that's the case, we'll crack a few beers together and have a good chat.
Very good. Look forward to it.